everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress, and welcome to today's webinar, What's Coming in XAF 13.2, presented by DevExpress CTO, Julian Bucknall. In this webinar, here are some of the possible new features currently in development and expected to ship as part of our Universal Subscription 13.2. There will be time for your questions and comments throughout this presentation, so please feel free to enter them at any time in the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Julian Bucknall.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good night. No, not good night. Good evening. I'm Julian Bucknall. I'm the CTO at DevExpress, and this webinar is about what's coming in XAF 13.2. And I've added a little subheading there to a first approximation anyway. And this next slide will actually show what I actually mean about that is caveat spectator, which means let the watcher beware. That's you. First of all, I really want to state that this is not a list of what will appear in XAF 13.2. I'm going to discuss a bunch of features here, and as everybody knows, this is August. We release our second major release of the year in December, so we have all of August. Well, okay, but the 20th of August now. So we have the remainder of August, September, October, November, 3 full months to finish this off. So things I discuss here, some are likely to appear. In fact, we've done quite a bit of work on them already. Some are likely in a kind of 50% kind of likeliness to be actually part of 13.2, and then some we probably just won't get to it. So if I discuss it, it's not guaranteed it's going to appear. So please don't write to me and say, "Oi, on the 20th of August you talked about X and X is not in 13.2. What happened?" Yeah, resources, time, all of those things that run out. So this is kind of a list of what we'd like to feature in XAF 13.2. As I just want to reiterate, there are lots of bridges to cross here, some hurdles to jump, and some may not make it. So think of this webinar essentially as an experiment. We're opening up what we'd like to do for XAF 13.2, so what we'd like to do in this particular product, and we're still a way away from actually saying whether these particular features are going to be there or not. So it's essentially, hey community, this is what we'd like to do. Give us feedback. Do you agree these are good things? Do you agree or do you disagree they're good things? Or you'd rather have your own particular feature that you'd like to have in it? If we think that some of your feedback is actually very relevant and we could actually change our roadmap here for 13.2, then hey, let's change the roadmap for 13.2. But anyway, so caveat spectator. First thing up, this is pretty much guaranteed because we've done a lot of work on it, and in fact, if I'm going to basically drag this over here, if you are not already subscribing to Dennis's blog, you ought to be. So Dennis talked about this particular feature a month ago. Well, not quite a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, developing the new reports module. So he's talking about it on his own blog. So please make sure you subscribe to Dennis Garavsky, blogspot.com. Oops. And you'll hear a lot about how XAF is moving along as we implement these particular features. So he's already talked about the reports module, so one can say pretty unequivocally, it's going to be there in 13.2. So the new reports module is going to be all about the ability to design reports at design time in Visual Studio. We haven't had this yet, so essentially I'll lead you through a few screenshots here to show you what's available. Do not have the code. It's in a very perilous state. So essentially, just like X reports, you design your reports at design time with Visual Studio. We save them in a particular way, and there will be some special data sources for XAF rather than the data sources we provide for X reports. As part of that, we're going to make it possible to load only the required data fields for better performance. So there's going to be a new view data source. And it's going to be based on XPView or Entity Framework's iData record. And this is basically to improve the performance. We'll load arbitrary calculated aggregated values, and we won't load the entire persistent object, that kind of thing. So let's have a quick look at some images that I have, some screenshots that I have. So first of all, it's going to be, exactly the same as extra reports. You're going to create a new report class. So add a new item extra report, just like a non-XAF application. And then you can open up the report designer and customize the toolbox. We're adding a collection data source here, reports module, view data source as a new component again. So there are two items here. The collection data source, what that is more, it's kind of similar to the XP collection, how that works, or how the former reports module actually works, the iObjectSpace.create collection method. So it has the usual criteria, sort property, object type name, top return records, and other properties. All data fields are available by default. And the view data source, the one that's highlighted here, oops, wrong place, is based on the XPView component. So it has a unique properties property. In other words, you can specify the names of the data fields that be retrieved from the database. Not everything will be retrieved from the database. So we can set up the view data source. View data source, there we go. For the report, we can then specify the properties we want to see in the final report. We're just going to have name in this particular screenshot. So if your records are large, we're going to save time here with the view property by just downloading the name property, the name field. Then we can drop it onto this surface, the report surface, just like extra reports. And since we're basically creating the report at design time and not runtime, we need to register it in the application via code in the report data provider class. And then we should have, at that point, a set of predefined reports. Our test report is there using a particular business object. And Dennis put down, by the way, I'm sure all of you actually know Dennis. Dennis is our XAF wizard, and he basically helped me here because he produced a script of things I should be talking about. So here we have a screen showing the predefined reports. Should we show all the reports together on this particular screen, on this particular dialog? Something to think about. Once we've registered our design time report, we can see the report preview just as normal, as any report. So we're just showing the name because that's all we've specified we wanted to see in the report. So in summary, we have a new report module, call it version 2 if you like, to provide this ability to create reports at design time and reuse those reports in your XAF application. There are 2 new data sources we've added, the collection data source, which is based on XP collection, and the view data source based on XP view. So you can create reports from those based on an XAF data model, and to also improve the preview performance, especially because we're no longer downloading. So the new reports module, as I said, is I would say definitely going to be there in 13.2. We've done a lot of work on it already, as I stated. The screenshots are from the actual code, so that's pretty good. Next, extending the validation module. We want to be able to create validation rules with better description information and the ability to have warning messages. And part of this is the ability to allow end users to skip what we might call unimportant validation rules which are failing. In other words, just a warning, we don't particularly care, or the application developer doesn't really care whether data gets added to the database with these validation rules failing. So we want to be able to stop blocking data saving if there are only warnings. A couple of images here. An example of the data model showing a validation warning. So it's a warning, and we allow things like, this is an example of the dialog that will be shown. Obviously you'd customize this, but you can actually ignore the warning and just close. Here's an example of what it might look like in the web UI. So again, it's a warning, so we can ignore it if you want, and save the data, or not allow the data to be saved. Next up is a feature we'd like to do, which is improving the web UI. We feel that the current web UI is getting a little dated, shall we say. We want to refresh the UI, and as part of this we want to be able to provide page templates which are better optimized for tablets. I'm saying tablets here for a particular reason. Providing templates for tablets is a little easier to do than for, say, a phone, a smartphone, because of basically the screen real estate. Tablets you can view, if you like, as being slightly smaller laptops. So we have a fairly standard size screen. We can get a lot of detail and information on that screen, whereas on a phone, things tend to work in a slightly different way. You have swipes to get to the next page, and all that kind of thing. I've got a couple of examples of what it may look like. So here, for example, is a detailed view of a mock-up we've done with regard to a tablet. So notice, obviously, when you're talking about a tablet or even a touch laptop, you're talking about the ability to have touch, so large targets. So, for example, the checkbox here, for example, is easily touchable with a finger rather than just the mouse. The submit button is nice and separated. We have this kind of big slider. So we're talking about the ability to create an XAF screens which will look good on a tablet and will be very usable on a tablet. Here, for example, is a list view on a tablet. Again, big touch targets. We have big buttons for the previous and next. We have the same touchable checkboxes, and so on and so forth. Basically, it's a way of we've done this with our other products in ASP.NET especially, and Phone.js and DevExtreme. It's all about thinking of your end user using touch as a way of entering data, changing data, interacting with the page. And the next one is, an idea of what the navigation may look like with such an XAF template. So we have, again, I keep on reiterating this. Things are bigger, so you can hit the up arrow and the down arrows if there were down arrows here. Very, very nicely spaced. We're talking about also, we all use tablets, we all use phones for that matter, but it's all about white spaces. It's about a modern look and feel. We used to talk about Metro look and feel, but it's more of a modern, flat-looking UI. So these are some examples, some mock-ups we've done of what an XAF application may look like on a tablet. So that's a distinct possibility for 13.2. There is an awful lot of work to do for this. I do not want to minimize the amount of work that's actually going to have to be done for this. We thought about improving the web UI for past release or a couple of releases. It's going to be long-winded. So part of the other thing that's on there is integrating the ASBX form layout to help us with this this work. Next is a continuation of things we've been doing in the past, improving an XAF web application, XAF application, improving the performance of such an application. A couple of ideas that we're looking at and investigating is improving the startup performance, providing better metadata caching, so that we don't keep on calling the internals of XAF to find out about underlying types. If we cache this stuff, we won't have to do all that hard work. Complex nested forms. Here it's about only creating the required controls and actions you need for those forms, not necessarily creating everything all at once. So call this delay loading if you like. Again, there's quite a bit of work to do in identifying what we can do and what the possibilities are here. So there's a group working on this kind of better performance. We'll obviously provide some kind of statistical information showing that XAF 13.2 is actually faster at doing X than XAF 13.1, for example. So we want to make sure that the work we do here is actually valuable. Next up on a list of possibilities is custom created fields. We want to be able to add custom members via the model editor or in code. We want to make it possible essentially for developers or the end users to add custom members via the model editor, just by essentially specifying the expression they want to calculate using the criteria language we have. So you could say, for example, orders.sum of amount. So, these calculated fields will show up in XAF lists and detail forms, and XAF will automatically refresh calculated values against various data changes. So it's a common scenario, and I'm sure a lot of people here have heard of Expand framework. It's had this kind of facility for a while, so we want to be able to add it to the main product itself. And now there's a possibility that it's a feature that will probably not appear in 13.2. I don't think we'll have time to do this particular feature. But I thought I'd just throw it in there so you can see what might be coming up in 14.1 or later. It's a new notifications module. It's a new built-in module that provides reminders and recurring tasks for instance, a kind of scheduling type application. It's similar to Outlook, but by saying scheduling, I don't particularly want to make you think, oh, it's just about the scheduler. The workflow stuff has some kind of recurring tasks within it. So we want to be able to extract this out to a new module, which would all be about notifications in some sense. So not necessarily bound to the calendar. There are several scenarios with workflows where possibly the workflow module is overkill. And so that's it for the general presentation here. Again, I just want to say these are the things we're looking at doing for XAF 13.2. Everything I've talked about here may appear in 13.2, or some of them may not appear in 13.2. We are still a way away from the release date. So I've been looking at the questions pane here in GoToMeeting, and people are asking questions and being replied. I'd just like to throw out there, is there any kind of feedback on other things that we haven't considered, which you believe ought to be considered? So let us know.
Hey, Julian. So I'm asking Dennis about some of these questions in here. What about mobile phone targeting? Is that in the plans?
Yes. All I wanted to say was targeting tablets is going to be a lot easier than targeting phones, because phones have a different paradigm to swiping through pages and all that kind of stuff, whereas tablets is a little easier because we can essentially put a new skin on things and make it a lot easier. So I'm not saying by talking about mobile UI and talking about tablets only that we're not going to do phones. No. That's not the intent at all. It's just that phones will take longer, and obviously we want to do it right, and obviously we want to make sure that it's usable by an XAF developer. So don't expect anything like that for 13.2, but for 14.1 or 14.2, certainly we'd be looking at providing extra functionality for phones.
What about, from Martin, Test Cafe and XAF integration examples?
Hey, I saw that. Hey, Martin, great question. Great question. Yes, I mean, Test Cafe doesn't, all right. Test Cafe is all about testing web UI. So it doesn't care about how that web UI is being generated, whether it's ASP.NET or whether it's pure JavaScript and lots of jQuery UI. It doesn't matter. It's all about testing a web UI. So it would be nice to have, a tutorial, if you like, about Test Cafe testing XAF web, but to be honest, it's going to be exactly the same as writing about Test Cafe testing an ASP.NET application, or Test Cafe testing a DevExpress application, or something like that. So it's something we certainly could do, but there's nothing special about it.
What about from Caesar? Are you planning to bring layout inheritance on models? He says not yet, Caesar.
Okay, not yet, Caesar.
Can you touch base on multi-database connectivity? Is there a plan to expand to map objects to different databases? It looks like Dennis is saying it's already supported, and he can, Michael, you can contact support directly for the details.
So yeah, Michael, I've got my email address up there. Send it to me, and I can send it straight on to the development team, and or support. So either julianb@devexpress.com or support@devexpress.com, and we'll show you how to do things.
I was hoping for the return of the deny right for the security system.
Speaking personally, yes, I'll agree that Marcel's second point there, the security system is far too complex for end users. Speaking personally, I'd say, yeah, I would agree with that. So Marcel, send me an email, and I'll investigate the answer and get back to you.
DevExtreme or Windows 8 app support from Tony.
So, new platforms. Yes, we can see that just supporting WinForms and ASP.NET is slightly limiting. There's WPF, there's Windows 8 support needed. DevExtreme, kind of a more difficult, shall we say. It's one of those things that's not going to get done for 13.2, and it's one of those things that we are continually looking at for later versions of XAF. Certainly supporting a new platform, no matter which one it is going to be a long-term effort. It's probably going to be spread out, I would say, over at least 2 major releases, rather than just be able to do it in one release. And when we do it, it's just going to involve everybody in the team. So it's just going to be nothing else but new platform X. So I can't say when. I can certainly say, yes, we agree that we should add more platforms to XAF. But I have no timetable scheduled for that.
Are there any plans to support adding other ORM engines like Hibernate, Open Access, or at least a guide on how we can do it?
Entity Framework is the one that everybody has been asking for. We've now provided that. I can't say that we're going to be adding another ORM. It's not one of the high priority features we want to add to XAF. I don't have any great, go and look at this particular page of the documentation. It'll show you how to do it. It's a huge thing.
Plans for documentation improvement?
What kind of documentation improvement are you looking for, Nikash? Please, as Dennis said there, if you have suggestions or you don't understand something in the documentation, that is a support issue. So email support or open up a ticket on the support center and say, documentation page such and such, I don't understand what it's saying, it's not complete, it's totally wrong, or whatever it happens to be. It's definitely a support issue.
We've had a lot of comments about cleaning up support tickets. I'm sure that the team online is noting that, removing duplicate tickets and...
Okay, we'll That's a note to Dennis, essentially, to go through and clean things up. So there's a whole discussion on the LinkedIn group. Many times examples do not get updated with new releases. Again, that's a support issue. We need to know if we've forgotten to do something. Then the support team are there to bang our heads together and get things sorted out.
From Nate, there was a WinForm touchskin that was supposed to be in 13.1, but Ray said didn't quite make the cut.
If that's the new Metropolis skin, then it's I don't know what actually requires, what needs to be done for XAF to support a new skin. It's the Metropolis theme. Lukash says, is the speed ever going to be improved to a degree that we could have a large CRM, say, for thousands of users, or is the plan for the framework to always be for mid-size applications? I'd have to have a chat with the team about that. I'm not sure what the performance issue is with regard to thousands of users. It's not something we could test here. We don't have thousands of connections right now. So I'd have to have a chat with the team about that, Lukash. I have no great answer. We're always trying to improve performance, yes, but I'm not certain of the issues that would occur with instead of tens or hundreds of users to thousands of users. I'm not sure what the issues would be.
Julian,
Yep.
Dennis is asking me to ask everybody a question. Aha, tables turned.
Oh.
He wants to know what they think about the ASPX form layout integration in XAF. Currently, this control doesn't support delayed view items initialization. The tab content is created on demand. He's wondering if they would live without this feature.
Quick bit of feedback for Dennis there in the team. ASPX form layout. At the moment, when you have a form layout with tab pages, they're created immediately. There is no facility for delay loading. In other words, if you have a form and it has 17 tabs on it or something like that, all 17 tabs will be created at creation time, even though the first tab may be the only tab used.
So Dennis, this is the stuff coming in. XAF form layout. Love the look of this control, but prefer performance improvements, from Dave. Michael says, I find that loading the tabs on the fly is a bit cumbersome and confusing to users. I would rather lose it for a better performing system. For me, a better readable and understandable XAF web layout is more important than performance.
Lukash has a good question here. We haven't done very well at this in any of our products, actually. It's speaking of reusing code, community would love if you created a marketplace for community-created modules, controllers, editors, and so on and so forth. This would allow even more agile development of business apps. Totally agree, Lukash. We don't have a good answer to this right now. The product that we have where we've been playing around with this to a certain extent is CodeRush. So CodeRush, there is the ability to write add-ins for CodeRush and so on and so forth. Even our solution for CodeRush is not that great yet. So yeah, I would agree with you. It's a great community involvement type thing. This a kind of marketplace for completed features and additional things for XAF. There's nothing yet there. We're still playing around with, as I say, CodeRush to see how we can make it better. But it's not at the moment, I'd say it's not a great solution even for that small quote marketplace unquote. So Stanislav says +1 for the marketplace. Yeah, I totally agree, Stanislav. It's unfortunately our web team are we've done a lot of changes to the website, you may have noticed. So our web team, poor guys, they're doing that and just that, and it would be there in their ballpark. Can you give Dennis a raise? Hang on, I've got my checkbook here, and Nate says we've got new icons for extra rich edit in 13.1 that are more Office 2013 like, but XAF icons remain the same. Yep, I'll have to see whether we can do something about that for 13.2. We ought to at least keep up with how WinForms is being improved. Largest table in our customer database is the audit data item persistent, for example, in 14. The audit trail module, I don't know enough about at all to be able to even. Well, I can understand the question.
I can tell you that there is a way. Here's the thing, right? If you're auditing every single sneeze that happens at the application, your log is going to get huge. And so my suggestion is to actually turn off some of the things. Like, for example, it will tell you anytime any column has been updated, but you can actually restrict what it is that you're saving and make it a little bit more svelte, so to speak. And so send me an email, and I'll send you a link to the documentation. I would seriously not log every single thing, because it will literally track every sneeze and burp that you make at the application.
So thanks everybody for attending. As I said right at the beginning, this is kind of an experiment to kind of show the kind of things we're thinking about for a roadmap for 13.2. Some of them will be done, and some of them are just nice ideas, but we won't have the time or resources to actually get to. So I hope this is a good experiment, and obviously we'll be talking more in future webinars and on the blog about what's coming up in XAF and how things are shaping up. So thanks everybody for joining us, and I hope it was good for you too.
All right, awesome session, great questions. Really, we love the feedback. And you can visit devexpress.com/webinars for those upcoming webinar sessions. So thanks to Julian for presenting, and of course to Dennis and the XAF team for being here. And thank you all for joining us. Let us know your thoughts on the possibilities. You can email Julian at julianb@devexpress.com, or Dennis at devexpress.com, or even the big kahunas at management@devexpress.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Bye-bye.